fucking crapperoni. Dude, this was fun, really freaking crazy. Like, from 10k to go, freaking snowstorm. Snowstorm. I'm not exaggerating. Exaggerating? What? Only 30-minute drive? Awesome! First race, that is. Wait a minute. What's up, guys? What's up, cycling fanatics? First race, it is pretty close to my house. Yes! Alright, so club competition. This is my first club competition this year. It's 170 kilometers. We've got teams of 5 riders and there's no continental teams, which means, well, it implies that the level of racing is going to be lower. But, you know, there's a couple continental teams of last year that couldn't continue because they didn't have enough sponsors. So these continental riders got sort of divided back over the clubs. And these club teams, they have ex-continental riders, ex-pro continental riders, even ex-world tour riders. So the level is actually still super high. Anyway, I raced this race last year. Mechanical issue 10 kilometers before the finish, so I pretty much messed up my chance on a placing. I don't know. Let's see what's gonna happen this year. To give you a couple excuses, I've been sick all week. Massive cold, crazy feeling in the head. All my sinuses are blocked. I couldn't train, so I have done 0 training this week. I tried going on the indoor trainer for 40 minutes. Legs felt totally crap the day after, and that was 2 days ago. So I did a short ride. We'll see. Dude, it's so cold right now. 6 degrees. What? Freaking windy. I saw the windmills spinning like crazy when I was driving up here. It's like we're going back like 2-3 months back in time, racing in the winter again. Kijk eens down.
Held.
Oh, there. Hoe is het?
Ja, goed jongen. Hallo.
Hey.
LP.
Daan.
Hallo.
Voel je?
Ik wel goed.
Okay, so everybody of the team is here. We're gonna have a team meeting, get dressed and everything.
A few moments later.
Dude, wearing triple layers. Right before we went to change, it started snowing. Looking at the weather forecast right now, it says there's gonna be more snow. So, very strong northeasterly wind, which is gonna bring down the temperature. So I guess it's a cold day. Okay, guys are getting ready. Let's go. Alright guys, here we go with another race breakdown. This is the Zuiderzeeronde 2019, which is part of the club competition, the second race in the club competition. We are indoors right now. We started from inside, which is really nice because this was a very cold day, as you will be seeing in the rest of this video. We had like 4 or 5 rain and snow showers throughout the race, which was really crazy. We've got 35 teams present today, all club teams, 35 teams with 5 riders, so that's 175 riders racing today. So it's a big field, a lot of teams, and there's no continental teams in this race. So yeah, it's a little bit different than the other races since the teams are smaller. We only have 5 riders. And the level, it implies the level is a little bit lower because there's no continental teams. But still, these club teams have some very, very good riders. Some are former pro riders that have stepped down to club level. Others are almost about to turn pro. So this is really the place to perform well if you want to step up to a higher level, or you can step down and take a little bit more easy if you have a job, a family, whatever, like me. So yeah, this is 175 kilometers today. I've got 2 cameras in the front and in the back. The 4K model of the Drift Ghost is at the front, which will give us a little bit nicer looking footage, as you can see here. And the X model is in the back, which has like a crazy battery life of 5 hours, which is gonna take us through the entire race. As always, you can see the time at the top left, and then at the bottom you'll see RPMs, distance, speed, my heartbeat, of course the power, and then at the top right you'll see the track layout. And the wind today was from the northeast, so that's the top right corner if you're looking at the map. So if you look at the map carefully, you'll see there's a couple sections of this race that have a straight crosswind, and then there's another couple sections that have a straight headwind or a lot of tailwind. Now this was very important in this race, and I will take you through the entire race explaining why this was important and what the influence is of racing with a tailwind or with a headwind or with a crosswind. And I'll also explain to you how I got into the breakaway this race. And this was really the first time in a road race that I managed to get into the breakaway. So that was really cool. Right now we're still in the neutralization. We were going very, very slow. I think there was a mechanical issue straight from the beginning. So that's why they are waiting for the other riders to catch up. So let's go to the moment where we are let loose. All right, the whistle is going. So this is really the start of the race. About 8 minutes in, 2.5 kilometers. We're only going 60 kilometers an hour, and then full gas, and the speed goes up really fast. We're on a tailwind right now, so yeah, the speed will be very high, and the chances that there was anyone really breaking away was kind of small. If you're in a tailwind, the whole peloton is already going so fast. If you want to attack and break away from a peloton that's going over 50 kilometers an hour, you'll have to do like 60 kilometers an hour. So that's pretty tough when you're by yourself. So in the beginning, there was a lot of tailwind, and I was not too worried that it was really going to break into pieces. There was only one section after the next corner that's coming up that had a crosswind. So that was an important part of the race. And then it would come a little bit later that there was a lot of crosswind. So it was just a matter of keeping positions, trying to stay in the front, which is always a safer place in these races. I did not see a lot of crashes this race, which was good. Usually in these club competitions, like in the first half an hour, I see 5 crashes. But luckily this day was not too bad, but I was in the front all day, so maybe there happened a lot behind me. I've got a couple teammates with me. There's 3 in the picture right now. We have a new jersey, so the guy in front of me with Tux on his bibs, that's our team jersey, and it's more red than last year, so we've got a red jersey, and we all have a pretty good position already. It's only the start of the race, but it's better to stay in the front than to try and get to the front later in the race. Alright, so what you see right now, it looks like all these guys are attacking, and what they're really doing is trying to stay in a good position for the next corner that's coming up. So after this corner, the direction will change, which means the wind direction relative to us is going to change, and it means that it can be split up into big groups or small groups depending on how the wind is and how fast everybody is going. So when there's a corner coming up and you know that after the corner there's going to be a crosswind, it's very, very smart to be in front. So that's why everybody's pushing so hard. Also, the first rain shower was about to come down on us, which made this race super, super cold. The forecast of today was like 6-7 degrees Celsius and rain showers. So I was wearing like a warm base layer, arm warmers, my jersey, a windbreaker, like super warm gloves, leg warmers, overshoes, a scarf. And then there was other riders who were with short sleeves, short legs, short gloves, and I don't know, they must have been so cold on this race. It was crazy. Like at one point later in this race, the temperature went down to freezing levels. So whatever you do when you race, take a very careful look at the forecast, and if it's going to rain with these temperatures, right now the rain is not rain, it's snow. So it's snowing and we're racing. It made it so cold right in the first 10 minutes of the race. So we started with a wetsuit, and it was not fun. Right now, again, we've turned, but the wind is coming straight from the back. So no big deal. But after this turn, it will be a fight for the crosswind. So important to stay in the front the whole time and be able to get in a good position as the turn is coming up. So right now we're going on this roundabout. I'm well in the front of the pack, so that's very good. And here we're going sort of into the wind, and look at this. The snow is coming down. The wind is from the right. Strong winds right now. And these vibrations are from the grooved tarmac. The sides are grooved, so it was a crazy vibrating part of this road. Alright, so as you can see, it's going pretty fast. We're in this hailstorm, and the field is stretching out a little bit already. Everybody's staying to the left side of the road because the wind's coming from the right. So if you're on the left side of the guy in front of you, you'll be in his draft and you'll have a little bit less headwind. So everybody's trying to stay to the left side, but of course the road is not going any further to the left. So everybody will end up on the left side of the road and sort of being in the gutter. That's how it works with a crosswind. And in the front there will be an Echelon, which will be the best place actually to be in, because then you can draft the most behind the rest of the riders. Right now you can see other guys on the right side, they're overtaking, because a peloton is sort of like a moving organism, so it's never stationary. If you're on one place 1 second, you can be 20, 30, 50 riders back 10 seconds after that. If you keep moving up, that's the only way you can sort of maintain position. So sometimes you'll have to go to the side, get your face into the wind and make up some spots. Now, if you look at the map, we've got wind from the right. As you can very clearly notice that the field is stretching out. Everybody's on the left side of the road, and there's a 90-degree turn coming up towards the left, which means the whole direction is going to change with a tailwind. Now, the tailwind from the side is very, very dangerous if you're not in a good position, because the speeds will be super high, and this is actually the most likely situation where the group will split up and there will be a breakaway formed, or multiple groups. The peloton will split up in a couple groups. Right now, I'm trying to get in front, so I tap my teammate who is right behind me, and there's actually 2 other teammates behind me. And if you look at the front camera, it looks like I'm just putting my face into the wind, but looking to the back, you'll see that I've got some teammates behind me, and I'm actually sort of trying to get everybody of our team in a better position. So I'm overtaking a lot of riders here, taking my teammates with me towards the front of the race, where you can see they're riding in an Echelon, and then behind that Echelon it's all single file. So everyone that's doing single file is pushing the same amount of watts, except the guys in front in the Echelon, because that's where you want to be. That's where you can draft behind each other. So we just moved up with the 3 of us, and we moved up like 20 spots, which is good, as the corner is coming up. So right now what you can see, it splits up. It breaks up right in front of me, and I react immediately. There's a guy who's pushing to close this gap. So I jump on his wheel. Looking behind me, you can see it's single file and it's stretching out. And there's actually more gaps opening up. I wasn't sure what was going to happen after this 90-degree turn, so I just wanted to stay with that first group. If that group got away, that would have been the breakaway of today. So I wanted to stay in the front the whole time. No gaps in front of me, only gaps behind me. I wanted to keep very sharp this race and not miss that breakaway again. So right now we are rotating a little bit, and as I can see, there's a corner to the left coming up, which means there will be a tailwind. So I'm not too worried to push this gap full gas, because as I have more speed through this corner, I can accelerate easy and just close this gap and join this group, not having to push out crazy numbers just before that corner. So just keep looking ahead what's coming up. If there's a big gap in front of you, but you know there's a sharp corner coming up, by yourself you're always going to be faster through a corner like that instead of going in a group. So you can close down gaps just by taking momentum through corners by yourself. And right now, looking back, you can see that the rest of the whole peloton will be joining us again. So this time it didn't stay away. It was only in the beginning of the race. We're only 18 minutes from the start, so everybody's still fresh. So everyone is still really motivated and has some good legs to push these gaps and close all these gaps to make it a big peloton again. But this will change later in the race. Right now we're on a tailwind, and as you can see, it's not going really crazy. The wind is not that much of an angle, so it's more tail than from the side. So in this case, having a tailwind is more relaxed. You don't need to be in an echelon, you don't need to be in the front that much, but I was trying to keep position for that next turn. So I'm staying in the front, staying in the lee side of the group. On the left side, the wind's coming from the right, so I've as much shelter as I can have, which is perfect for now. Saving some energy just in the beginning of this race. So as we are approaching the end of this tailwind section, it's another battle. Every time there's a corner coming up, there's another battle. And in this race, there was actually very long straights and only few corners, few changes of direction, which made it a little bit more relaxed. You can have a better overview. And what I actually did, which helped me so much in this race, is that I had the GPX file of the route on my computer. So I had the map display in front of me and I could just see, okay, in 1 kilometer or 500 meters, there's another corner coming up to the left, to the right. So I would know when to be in the front of the group, and I would know when it was okay to be more in the back and have a rest or take some food or whatever. So this really helped me throughout the entire day to sort of keep an overview and to sort of plan when you're going to be racing for position and when you're going to be in the front and when you need to be in the front, because that's what it's all about. You can race in the front all day and then not win the race, or you can race in the back all day and win the race because you're smarter than the rest. I'm not that smart yet. I don't have that much experience, so I really need some other little things to help me out, so that it can either be a teammate who has a lot of experience or who has raced this race before, and they will tell you like, okay, there's a corner coming up, get to the front. In this case, it was my map display who was sort of going to help me, and who was telling me, okay, there's a corner coming up, you should be in the front right now. And this really, really helped me. Right now we're on a tailwind and nothing is happening again, like I said. So it's gonna be quite a long time actually. Looking at the map, we'll turn slightly to the left. But since the wind was from the northeast, it's all in a tailwind. And I started realizing this at this moment. I'm like, okay, nothing is gonna happen until we approach this one part of the race, which I knew from the last time. This was a sketchy moment, by the way. Check out this mid-berm on this roundabout. Pretty crazy, but I didn't see it at all until the last moment. But there was not too many roundabouts and not too many mid-berms in this race. Luckily, sometimes these things are everywhere, which is very annoying. So this was the moment I was talking about. This is really where the breakaway is going to form. So pay close attention. Right now we're on a brick road. A bumpy brick road, which makes it harder. We're on a tailwind, so the field will be stretching out and everyone needs to push out a little bit more power to stay with the group. And looking at the map display, there will be a sharp left turn. I knew this turn was going to be on a small dike with brick roads, with bumpy streets, and we'll have a straight wind from the left. And right now I realized this is the location where the breakaway is going to happen. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But if it's going to happen, it will happen on this spot. So I was aiming to be in the front at that spot in this race. And This would give me a really good chance to be in the breakaway. Finally to be in the breakaway. So just pay attention and see how this will develop. By the way, check out all these water bottles flying around. Because it's so bumpy, the water bottles just fly out of your bottle cage and then people would run over it, so they explode. It was kind of crazy. Right now we're approaching this corner a little bit more, and you can see already there's guys battling for position. There's riders who are going around pushing hard to get to the front, and I was doing the same. I was keeping up with the first 10 to 20 riders because I knew it was going to happen right here. Okay, brick roads are done. A little bit of tarmac in between. And there's a couple corners coming up. Right here, I'm taking the left side of this roundabout. If you're with a group and you take the other side of the roundabout, you're almost always faster. Unless you're like the first or second rider in the group. But some of these roundabouts were off-centered. And if you take the long way around, it could be like a lot slower. So we're still on the tailwind. We're getting close to that sharp left-hand turn where everything is gonna break up. So pay attention. I'm right now maybe in the first 30-40 riders, so I still have a little bit of places to make up to get in a good position. And you can see it's a fight. Guys are bumping each other, and we're trying to sort of sneak through the left side here to get to the front, which was kind of a small gap. And then there's another roundabout coming up here. I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna do the same, accelerate, take the left side of this roundabout. But this roundabout was off-centered, so I actually had to take the long way around, which was not very good. I had to brake really hard here to not fly out of this corner. But still I ended up in a relatively good position. And right here I'm on the gas to stay with these guys. And as we're going through the left turn right here, you'll see what happens. So we'll transfer back from the tarmac onto these brick roads, and then the wind is coming from the left. Looking behind, it's super stretched out because of a couple of these roundabouts. And then on a section like this, when the wind is coming from the left, you form an echelon. Everything is stretched out, everything is single file. That's exactly when it's gonna break, and it didn't take long. Looking behind me, it's already breaking up just behind the guy behind me. And I saw this happen, so I was in the perfect position right now. All I had to do is get in that echelon to not be dropped out myself, because I am pushing out a lot of power right now to stay with these guys. And if I would be in the back for too long, as you can see, my heart rate is going up way high. This would take too much energy and I might have to drop out. So right now, just hanging on this little string, but I want to get forward. I want to get in that echelon to be rotating and actually have a draft. So right now I'm just waiting a little bit. I can go on the right side of the road here, having a little bit of shelter behind these other riders, and this is it. Looking behind, one guy coming up. He made it across from the group to us, but that's it. Big gap already. This goes really fast. So right now I'm moving forward a little bit, and then just squeezing in right here in this gap, and I'm in the echelon. That's sort of how you do it when you're in the back, and if you have a little bit extra, you can accelerate around these couple last riders and then squeeze into that echelon. Because if you stay in the back for too long, like I just said, big chances you're gonna be spit out the back and you can't hold that last wheel. So right now we're rotating full gas. All these guys know we have to continue really hard for a couple minutes to have a big gap. And if we have the gap, then you're gone, and then you will probably stay gone for a long time. So that's what we're doing right now. It doesn't take long until we actually start using the entire road from left to right. So in the beginning it was an echelon sort of on half of the road, so not a lot of riders fit in the echelon. But as soon as we break away, we start using the entire road, so everybody has more of an advantage, and we start working together to increase the gap on the peloton. And here we are a couple minutes later. I finally made it into the breakaway. This was the first time in a road race that I got into the breakaway. So I was pretty happy right now, not knowing if it would stick or if it would be caught back, but that doesn't matter. I had a strategy that I played well and it worked. But check out the weather. It is snowing right now. So another snow shower. We were already cold and this really had a big effect on me. I didn't say this before, but in the week of this race, I was actually pretty sick. I didn't do any training and I didn't work, I didn't train, I didn't ride my bike. I had a big cold and I was just not feeling very well. So I was doubting if I was going to race this race, but I decided I was just going to do it anyway. But my legs are not so good. So I actually started having cramps pretty fast. Just like last year, I would have cramps after a couple hours. In this race, it already started like within the first hour. Because of the really cold temperatures and these rain and snow showers, it really had a bad effect on my legs. And so it was a bit double-sided. I was happy I was in the breakaway, but then I was a bit disappointed to have such bad legs. And it's quite easy to get overexcited when you're in a breakaway because you want to stay away from the peloton, right? So all these guys are your friends, but all these guys are not my friends. All these guys are competitors and they know it and you know it. You just need each other to break away. So if you look around right now, there's actually a couple teams represented with more than one. There's actually 2 or 3 of them in this breakaway. There's no other teammates of my team in this breakaway. So do I have the duty or do I need to really push super hard? I don't think so. I'm just going to rotate and do my work, but I'm not going to do any more than required. And that's also what I was going to try in this breakaway, especially because I had really crappy legs, which I found out in the first hour. And we're just riding through this crazy snowstorm right now, which makes it even worse. And I could already feel that this was not going to be my best day, but now I'm here, now I'm in the breakaway. I want to make the most out of it as possible. So just copying these snowflakes here and trying to keep motivated. It was kind of crazy, but yeah, we were still going. Okay, so pay attention on the map. Right now we have a tailwind, but we're in a 90-degree turn to the left, and then we'll have a straight crosswind from the left. So when you're in this breakaway, it's very important to keep an eye on your position and to keep an eye on where the road is going. So as we're going to the left right now, and we have a crosswind, you want to be riding in that echelon like I explained before, because it's going to save you energy. Although you're doing some pulls at the front, you're still drafting a lot more than when you would be totally in the back, in the gutter, and having to push sort of the same power as the guy in the front of the echelon. But it wasn't this bad. We had a very wide road here, and since we're using the entire road, everybody fits on the road, so everybody would be in the echelon. But when the road would get very narrow, this is really important. So even though you're in a breakaway with multiple riders that are all working together, it's still sort of a battle for position at some points where you can just save a little bit of energy when you are riding smart or smarter than the rest, which I'm not very good at, but I was trying in this race. Coming through a set of left-right corners, but we're still in the same direction, but it stretches out a little bit. I have to accelerate big time. Now you can really see right now that there's an echelon in the front, a couple of guys straight out the back, and right here I'm back in the echelon, and that's gonna save me some energy. You don't always know how many riders would fit on the road, so it's, in my opinion, it's better to just go forward and try to go in straight away than just be sort of waiting in the back and see what will happen. Because if you're on that little tail and you're in the gutter for too long, it's just, you're just burning up your matches, which you don't want. But in this case, you know, everybody fits on the road. The echelon is not in a very big angle, so we could all just sort of benefit from this rotation. And the thing I noticed in this race is that since the level is slightly lower than the open races and the UCI races, where there's a lot of continental teams, I just had that little bit extra power to be able to do these moves and to be able to sometimes just overtake a rider or be at the right time at the right place. And when you're riding other races where there's just like big teams of 7, all these guys are semi-pros, trained twice as much as me, then it's just very hard to do those moves because everything just goes so much faster and so much harder that I don't have that extra little edge to just push a little bit and then be at the moment at the right place. So that was a little bit of a difference that I noticed in this race. Okay, we're going through another left-hand turn, which means looking at the map, right now we're in a straight headwind. So the speed will be lower, but drafting will be so much more beneficial. So staying in the back of this group right now would actually be smart. However, staying in the back the whole time, which a couple of these riders are doing, is really annoying to the rest. I found it annoying. I know the other guys will find it annoying, and when you start doing it too much, there will be a little bit of frustration within the group, and the possibility is that nobody wants to work anymore since half of the group is just hanging out the back as a sandbag, and then you sort of mess up the breakaway. So right now the breakaway group was still quite big, and there's always a couple riders in the back doing nothing, just hanging on there, trying to, well, you know, sometimes they're eating, which is okay. When you need to eat, go to the back, you have a little bit more draft. You don't have to push in the front. You can have your bar, you can eat your gel, and then you start rotating again. But there was also a couple guys who just were in the back the whole time. So right here, look at the weather. It's perfect on the right, but it's terrible on the left. And yeah, it was pretty obvious that we're gonna ride into another crazy shower, which was not too good. I was really happy that we're riding in the sun right now. I could warm up a little bit. I could feel my legs coming back a little bit, getting a little bit better. But later in the race, as soon as we would go into another shower, it was just super cold and my legs were totally crap again. So it was a hard race, fighting cramps the whole time. And you guys might already have seen it, but I've made a video about food, what to eat before a race, during a race, and after a race. So if you're interested in what I eat during this race and during other races, you should definitely check that out. 1 hour, 30 minutes into the race, big crosswind again from the left. You can see this because we're in this echelon over the entire width of the road. And we're also in this crazy snow shower again that I just told you about. We could see it coming, and yeah, it was like the fifth shower of that day already. So it was getting really demotivated because of this weather. But still, you're in a race. You're not just gonna say, okay, I quit. Nah, you're just gonna continue, make the best out of it. And we're pushing hard right now. Looking out in the back, you can see the other guys. Everybody's sort of rotating. And right here we've got the judge's car. We've got a motorcycle with a cameraman. They were filming the entire race. I don't know where the footage is. I didn't see any, but they are documenting these races, which is pretty cool. Okay, back on the bricks. I'm eating. You can see a wrapper of an energy bar in my left hand. So I'm hanging in the back, trying to get some food in. I was eating solid food in the first 2 hours. So I was having 2 energy bars and some gels and some drinks and everything. Everything I eat is described in that other video. So you can have a look at it there. But like I said, we're going into the wind right now. So being behind is okay. Still having to push out somewhat big power numbers when you have a little gap. So it's important to really stay close, because situations like this, if you get a gap, then it's easy to get dropped. Right here, the judge's car was coming next to us, and with the last race still in my mind, I was like, what is he doing here? But he was just coming over to tell us we had 1 minute and 30 seconds on the peloton, or on the second group. So that was pretty good. A lead of 1 minute 30 seconds on a crit that would be sort of lapping the field. Right now we had 1 minute and 30 seconds of a gap, and still about 2 hours. We're halfway of the race. So yeah, I was having a pretty good feeling this would stick till the end. But if that would happen, well, you're gonna see in the rest of this video. So almost 2 hours in this race, and like I said before, I've got 2 cameras on the bike. The Drift Ghost 4K model in the front, which has a little bit better image, but the battery was a little less. And with the cold temperature of this day, the battery actually died at this point. So luckily I have another camera pointing out to the back, and we're gonna continue on this one, and I'll still show you what happened in the rest of this race. Now, looking at the track layout of the race in the top right screen, you'll see there's a big loop that we're almost about to finish. And then there's this little loop towards the northeast, towards the top right of the screen. That was gonna be the next loop that we're gonna do once we would pass start finish. And then we'll have the smaller loop of about 15 kilometers that we have to do 3 times. So that was the plan of this race. So right now we're getting closer towards the first start finish passing. Right here we're coming through the feeding zone, and I missed the bottle that I tried to get from the side. So I've got one guy of the Breakaway handing me a bottle right here, which is very nice. Thank you, Jimbo, for that bottle. And yeah, it's very important to keep your supplies filled, and for some reason I'm not that good in grabbing bottles from the side, so I take 3 bottles with me, and then when I need another one, it's sort of a lucky shot trying to get it from the side. But anyway, a couple roundabouts here till we hit the finish line, and then we'll go for that first small loop and then 3 local loops before we hit the finish. We still have about 80 kilometers to go, so it's still a long way. And yeah, you could notice that these guys were getting a little bit more tired. I was really shit. My legs were terrible. I was having cramps the whole time, not completely blocking, but you know, when you're riding and your legs are just squeezing, sort of alternating, is super annoying. And I was trying to keep them moving and warm them up, but it was impossible in this weather. It was very close to freezing, and it was just a hard day. So here we are on that out and back loop into the wind right now, and at this point it really started to be apparent that there was less cooperation within the group. More guys would start hanging on the back, not close the gaps. Including me, I was not filling all the gaps because I was trying to skip a couple pools. And yeah, there were more, like here, there's a big gap. The guys from the back don't keep the wheel of the guy that's moving to the front. So what happens is somebody else has to do it. Right now I do take the pool, so I go forward and I try to restart the Echelon. But as you can see, again, the guy behind me, there's another guy, and then there's nobody. So the Echelon keeps breaking up, and this really cost us speed, and it probably cost us time as well. So right now we don't really have a tracking system. We don't have radio, so we don't know what the exact gap is with the peloton. If we would have known, maybe right now we would have more motivation to work together and to keep it up. But at this moment, yeah, the teamwork was going down a little bit in this group. A little bit further up the race, and something happened that made a rider made a avoiding maneuver that you can see right here, and then it sort of amplifies throughout the rest of the riders going back, and then it turns out right there in the back the guys went off the road, and actually Matthew, a former teammate of me from last year, He went off the road. I talked to him after the race. He's like, yeah, I had a body check, ended up in the grass, and ended up with a big gap behind us, and never was able to close that gap. As you can see right now, there's like, what is it, 30 meters within him and the last rider. But because we're doing this echelon into the wind, rotating, it's just super hard to just close that gap. It's right there in front of you, but it's too big to close it. So it's really important to stay on the wheel and do not let a big gap fall between you and the last wheel of the group. Right here we're coming through start finish again for the second time, which means now we're starting that little local loop of 15 kilometers that we have to do 3 times. So enough practice on this loop for the finish, and yeah, I was just feeling worse and worse, trying to drink, eat, and take as much in as I could, but there wasn't much left. Right here there was an attack going, big acceleration, so I was trying to react and follow those wheels, but that's the point where my legs locked up, so the cramps got really worse and I could just not move my legs for a moment, a couple seconds, which got me on the last wheel actually with a gap. And this is what I was just talking about. If you are at the back with a gap in front of you, it's very easy to be spit out and get dropped. So right now it was getting really hard. I was having to push pretty hard to stay with the group while having cramps, which is not good. So a pretty shitty moment in the race. Right here you can see it. I'm pushing out big numbers to try and get back on that wheel. The wind is coming from the left, so we're all on the side of the road. I mean, last wheel, there's nobody behind me except judges and team cars. So heart rate is going up very high. And this was a really bad moment in the race where I thought about, okay, now I'm getting dropped, or I'm gonna push out like a little bit extra hard to close up to this group again, and then I'm back in the race, or I'm just gonna be messed up, and this is it. But I managed to get back. Luckily, it took me a little bit. It took me a big effort. I was not feeling very good right now, but luckily I got back with the group. I was not the only one having cramps. As you can see, the rider behind me, he's doing some nice yoga stretches here on the bike. And the only reason I can think of is because he's having cramps as well. So yeah, we're in the same boat, and let's blame the weather. Going through start finish again, third time. We've got 2 laps to go. Our gap to the peloton, or to the second group, was getting smaller. I wasn't fully aware at that time, but it was getting smaller and smaller. So as we are about halfway with 25 kilometers of racing left, right behind us you can see this big group of riders approaching. There was a second group in the race, and they joined us, making one big group. And then afterwards, actually, the rest of the groups also rejoined with us, so everything was back together. Well, except for all the riders that were already dropped and taken out of the race, which was like half of the peloton, because it was a very hard race. What you didn't see in this footage, because we were riding in the breakaway by ourselves the whole time, but in the back, what I heard from my teammates, it was a constant battle for this echelon and the breakaways and groups. And every time there was a crosswind, there was a big fight. So yeah, right here, we're all in a big group. My legs are dead. I've got nothing left. Of course, there's going to be attacks straight away after everything is sort of rejoined back together. And I try to react on some of those, but I just didn't really have the legs anymore. So I missed that attack that stayed away to the finish. And then I try to make the most out of it for the rest of this race. We still have 20 kilometers left, so we still have 1.5 laps to go. And let's start finish with the bell. So that's the last lap, last 15 kilometers, last about 15 minutes of this race. And yeah, it was going pretty fast. Last lap was really fast, and I was having a hard time just to keep up. Legs were empty, and I just try to sort of keep position. I try to coach my teammates as well, because I saw them back after the whole peloton, or after the whole group was rejoined. So I was trying to sort of work together with them and keeping up in the group, not getting too far to the back, and practicing a little bit of our teamwork, which actually did work out a little bit. So it's always good to try to keep an eye on your teammates. We still really have to get used to each other and get to know each other more, and ride with each other a lot more to really be a solid team, which is difficult. We don't always race with the same riders in our team. So right now we had a pretty good group that is gonna go through a lot of these races. So I'll see these guys more and more. So as we are racing together more and more, we can really start working together in these races. Okay, 5 kilometers to go. We're approaching the end of this race. We've done 172 kilometers, 4 hours of racing. Been racing in the breakaway all day. It was all for nothing, sort of. And now there's more attacks from this group. So I just try to make the best out of it. And then there's another rain shower, which is, well, it's snow because it's super cold. The temperature dropped down to 0 degrees Celsius, which is freezing. And I thought it would be smart to get rid of my vest for this last lap, since it was only a short while, but it actually got really cold. I should have kept on the vest for this last lap. But anyway, Dan, my teammate, is right behind me. He had a really rough day as well, racing in the second and third group. So I saw him back in this last part of the race, and I figured, oh, you were in the peloton all day. Maybe you can, you know, push a little bit harder and try to keep us in the front. But man, it was so hard for them as well. What I just said, it was a big battle out there in the back of the race, which I was not aware of. Right here, we're approaching the finish. We've got 4 corners to go. I've got one teammate, Mitchell, who is in front of me, and I'm coaching him. I'm yelling at him like, go, 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 go left, go right. I'm telling him which gaps he should fill, just to give him an extra pair of eyes, because I'm behind him. I can have an overview, and I already went through these corners in this little group for a couple times, so I knew which was the better side. And also with the memory of last year, how the sprint finish was. It was sort of chaotic. And the last corner is very dangerous. As we are approaching it, I was having second thoughts about how to approach that corner, but it was all nothing. I was pretty sure I had no legs to sprint, so all I could do is just sort of, you know, try to keep up with the rest. Right now it's 1 corner to go. The corner is to the right, and then it's a long straightaway of about 400 meters towards the finish. I think there's about 10 riders in front of me in this group, and then there's this attack. So we are sprinting for place, 11. But as you can see right now, normally on the last section of the race, I would be overtaking a couple riders. Right now, I'm being overtaken by multiple riders. I had nothing left. I was done, as you can see right now. Placing I got was 27th, I think. So top 30, not as good as I hoped for, but it was okay. The good thing is I was in the breakaway this race, so I'm making progression bit by bit. It was a really hard race with the rain and the temperature.
Holy fucking crapperoni. Dude, this was fun, really freaking crazy. Like, from 10k to go, freaking snowstorm. Snowstorm. I'm not exaggerating. Exaggerating? Oh man, I'm dead. Riding a freaking breakaway all day? Not my thing. Not my thing. And this nice story about not having cramps and all that bullshit. First hour, the cramps started already. Not sure why. Maybe it was the temperature. It was really cold. We had like rain and snow straight from the beginning, so it was pretty cold. Pretty much having cramps all day long. Riding a breakaway with cramps all day long And then in the last loop, he got caught. Whole peloton got back together. Right at that moment, of course, they took off. No chance. What a fucking day, huh?
That was a good day, man.
Fucking hell.
I had snowboard.
No, they don't know snow in fucking New Zealand, Australia. Where are you from?
Yeah, not really.
Punching in that recovery shake and then getting in the shower really quick because it's super cold. Nou, dat klinkt goed. Hey, later boys. Okay, so now the sun is shining. What? What? We've had like 2 snow showers, 1 hailstorm and a blizzard during the race. And now it's blue skies and it looks like a nice summer day. How awesome is life? Crazy race. I'm really happy about one thing, and that's that this is the first time I got into the breakaway. Hey! Okay, so that's good. I got into the breakaway. I was riding in the breakaway for 150 kilometers. Oh, it was 100 kilometers. 120 kilometers. A long time. Cold legs are one great factor for getting cramps. I've experienced this in the past, so maybe I shouldn't have raced today, I don't know. I was sick all week and I decided I still wanted to race, but I am gonna cancel tomorrow because with a race like this, my immune system is gonna be a little bit low, and if I'm gonna race again tomorrow, it's just gonna be asking for to get sick again. So the baby has been at grandma's house all day, so I'm gonna pick up Daisy and the baby because they're both at grandma and grandpa. What a day, guys. Hallo! Ga je lachen? Ga maar zwaaien naar oma. Doei! Ja, het zit er allemaal weer in. Vind je lekker? Gaat die lachen?
The next day.
Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Any comments, just write them down below. Let me know what you think of this video. Don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe to the channel, and we're gonna see you next time. See ya!